Last time on the Skip and Josh podcast.
Everywhere he went, he had this bat in his hand. And then I remember going in my backyard with Josh and pitching him like a ball underhand with this bat. And Josh is like, no, we got to make him into a left-handed batter.
The Skip and Josh podcast is on now.
Hello.
Hey, Skippy.
Hey, what's going on?
I'm exhausted.
You are? Why?
You know what? You gave me this homework to do this week.
Yeah, I did a little bit. Yeah. Well, I mean, I thought you had it done already, basically.
No, far from it.
Okay.
Should we tell the listeners the homework that you gave me?
As the listeners know, or hopefully know, we were recently on the Semi-Intellectual Musings podcast with Matt Sanderson and Phil Primo, and we did like a crazy 90-minute long episode all about the Tragically Hip. It was actually, he asked me on when he was on our show, when they were on our show, he asked me what our favorite episode is, and I had to say I think my favorite episode is that one on theirs, on their show.
It was a very good episode. I don't know if it was my favorite, but it was a very good episode. It was exhausting for me that long. I don't have that kind of attention span.
It was fun to do, right? Just honestly, like four guys just talking about the Tragically Hip, and then me and you trying to remember what concerts we didn't go to.
Yes, exactly.
So on that episode, we each revealed our top number one Tragically Hip song. So I thought that me and you could maybe each give a top 10 today very quickly because there were so many songs we didn't touch on, and there's so many more things. I feel like we could do a whole other episode on the Tragically Hip.
We can.
Yeah, but I thought maybe we'd each reveal on the show today quickly our top 10. But then how come that homework exhausted you? I figured it would be so easy.
Well, it was a good thought that you had. And so then as soon as you asked me, I already had like 6 songs right away listed in my head.
Yeah.
And I could have easily found 4 more in another 4 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
But I decided I didn't want to skip any potential songs that I may have forgotten. So I went to the HIP website last night.
You're very thorough.
I am. I went to the HIP website last night, and I went through every single song they've ever released.
So you have a top 100, not a top 10.
Well, let me tell you, I ended up with my top 26 HIP songs after going through their entire discography. And then I had to narrow that down to 10. The whole exercise took me 2 hours, by the way. It was very long.
Well,
and I learned some things about myself that I didn't even realize.
This is amazing. Well, I can't believe this. Okay, because my side of the coin is completely different. I told you, can you do your top 10 HIP songs? I mean, I already had it basically written down when Phil asked us to pick out our number one. I kind of went through it, and I narrowed it down. The whole thing took me 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Well, this was akin to when a coach has to pick the players for Team Canada, and he's got this entire pool of players to choose from, and literally you could pick 2 great teams out of all those players.
That's a good example, good analogy.
This is exactly the same thing for me. I got down to 26 songs, and then it took me, first of all, it took me forever to get down to 10. But before I tell you the 10, I didn't realize, first of all, there are some albums that I don't actually own, some HIP albums that I don't own
some of the newer ones, yeah.
Like the last 4 studio albums they released, I never purchased them. And I have to say that the last 5 studio albums they released, there's like only one good song on all of those 5 albums.
That's a lot of bands are like that, When all of my top 10, even top 20, are basically from 3 albums, more or less.
So anyway, I get to 26 songs, and I was also surprised, because I know which songs I like, but sometimes I don't remember which album they're on. And so as it turns out, of the 26, and I'm not going to name all of them to you, the album that had the most songs that I liked, which was 5.
Road Apples.
I see, that's what I would have said. But like I said, I learned some things about myself / the HIP that I didn't realize. Fully Completely was the album that I had the most liked songs. It is
top to bottom the most complete album as I was looking at it this week, right? Not necessarily all the best songs, but there's no bad songs. And I was looking at it last night. I was thinking this. I told you it took me 15 minutes, but quickly I looked through some of the albums. I'm like, am I forgetting something from Fully Completely? And then I look and I'm like, oh yeah, Pigeon Camera. Forgot about that song. Not that it's in my top 10, but I just forgot about it, right?
Well, Pigeon Camera was in my 26, but it didn't make it to the 10. And let me tell you something. When I had to narrow down from 26 to 10, I'm sitting there trying to convince myself, okay, I have to remove this song. But if I remove this song, I have to remove this song as well because they're exactly equal. So then what I ended up doing,
this is amazing.
It's like if you're gonna take Sidney Crosby, well, I have to take the left winger that he plays with all season long because they play well together, which is completely idiotic. Right?
So which songs were the Crosby and Kunitz?
Well, I'll get to that in a second. So then I cancel those 2 songs, and now I'm actually down to 9 instead of 10.
Right.
So now I have a problem. I have to add another song now that I got
I didn't
rid
realize
of.
I gave you so much problems with this homework.
So I'm going back and forth 17 million times. Anyway, I finally got to the 10 songs. And by the way, I didn't rank them in order from 1 to 10. I just have the 10. Don't ask me to rank them because that's going to take me another 7 hours.
You didn't even rank them.
I was up till 1 a.m. doing this. I needed to sleep. I just woke up 10 minutes
This
ago.
is amazing. All right, so let me hear the 10.
Ladies and gentlemen, here's tonight's top 10 list.
So the 10
I'll
are
tell you if they're in my 10 also.
New Orleans is Sinking,
That fell out of my top 10.
Blow It High Dough,
Yes.
38 Years Old,
It's in my honorable mentions.
Boots or Hearts.
No, I didn't have that one.
Those are all from Up to Here. Little Bones and Three Pistols from Road
100%,
Apples.
yes.
Locked in the Trunk of a Car and Wheat Kings from Fully Completely.
Wheat Kings in my top 10. Locked in Trunk of a Car, no.
So that's already 8 songs, and I'm only into their 4th album. So there's only 2 more, and I'm going in chronological order of when they were released.
Okay, so?
700 Foot Ceiling, which is from Trouble at the Hen House.
No, I didn't. I know that. I like that song, but I didn't put it, yeah.
And Fireworks from
You
Phantom
mentioned
Power.
Fireworks. So there's a few songs that I have in my top 10, that you didn't even mention.
I'm sure.
Including my number 2 and 1.
Okay.
So
Go ahead.
my number 1 I revealed with the other guys was Bob Cajun.
Right?
Number 2 you didn't mention, Highway Girl, live version only.
Believe me, it's on my list of 26.
Three Pistols, Blow It High Dough, Little Bones, Nautical Disaster, Ahead by a Century, Wheat Kings, Gift Shop. You like that song?
Actually, Gift Shop did not make it into my 26.
And Grace 2. Also probably didn't make it into yours.
No. So Gift Shop and Grace 2 did not make it into my 26 songs.
Wow. Well, I mean, that's the beauty of the hip, right? Look, they have such a great catalog that we
Right.
didn't even have some of the same songs, which is amazing.
I knew that was going to happen. And it's interesting, even though, I don't even own any of their last 4 studio albums, I still continue to go to their concerts because, of course, they always play old stuff at their concerts. So that's why, even if I didn't like the new stuff, I still went to the concerts.
Right. So last night I asked you, like, can you come prepared with the top 10 hip songs? And you told me, yeah. And then you told me you had another something for me, a surprise.
Yeah, well, I have a list.
You just made the list!
So I'm debating whether I think I might just read you the list and then you have to tell me what these teams have in common.
Oh, we're going to sports now. I had no idea what it was related to. So, like, the beauty of the show is I'm going to actually read the text messages, okay?
Yeah.
I'm gonna read the text messages on air to show.
You could put a screenshot of the messages on our website.
Yeah, actually, that's what I'm gonna do. This is gonna be the show prep. Like here's our show prep. Can you record tomorrow? Sunday's not gonna be good for me. And you say yes, I can do. I can send you my top 10 hip songs, and then we go on a little bit about like what time. And I said, you have a What Bugs Me list? We could do a whole episode of What Bugs Me like we did once before. And you said you don't have enough things. Then we get off on a tangent and we talk about the Tony Kornheiser show. And then I tell you 9 o'clock and you say yes. And then I say, okay, come prepared with a few things to talk about, including your top 10 hip songs. And you say, will do. I have another list for you as well. I've already said too much. And then I said, oh, I'm excited. Do I need to do any extra preparation? And you say no. And that's it. Thus ends the text, and now we're talking.
Yes.
So actually, I have no idea what you want to talk about, and you have no idea what I want to talk about.
So I'll just read you these 10 teams, and then I have given this list a category, a name, but I will not divulge that. You will have to divulge what the name of the list is, what these teams have in common, after hearing the names of the teams.
Okay, I'm ready.
Buffalo Bills.
Could I write this down, or I don't need to?
Sure, you can. Absolutely.
Yeah, Buffalo Bills.
I don't know if you need to, but go ahead.
Yeah, Bills, yeah.
Miami Dolphins, New York Jets, Baltimore Ravens, Tennessee Titans, Oakland Raiders, Washington Redskins, Detroit Lions, Atlanta Falcons, and Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Okay, well,
So,
I mean, there's a lot of things.
By the way, this has nothing to do with stats. It has nothing to do with numbers. It's not scientific. It's just my opinion.
None of these teams are going to make the playoffs.
They probably won't.
That's not it.
That's not what it is.
Teams with bad quarterbacks.
No, because some of them actually have decent quarterbacks.
I don't know. What is it?
Yeah, some of them have good quarterbacks actually.
Yeah, no, you're right. Matthew Stafford's in the list.
And
Kirk Cousins.
the other Matthews in the list too. Matt Ryan.
I don't know. What is it?
And Derek Carr's
It could
a
be
good
anything.
quarterback. Right. It could be anything. So these, and this has to do with maybe gambling a little bit. These are teams you can't trust.
I like this. This is good.
It doesn't mean they're bad.
Yeah.
It just means you can't trust them. Meaning that if you expect them to win, they will lose. If you expect them to lose, they will win.
Now, I want to add an 11th team to this list.
Well, I was hoping you would have some teams to
Now,
add.
the thing is, in the history of football,
This is just this year. This is not
in the history of football. There is always one team on the top of my list that you can never trust. That's the New York Giants. Can never trust the New York Giants ever.
Well, this year you can.
This year you can because you know how
suck.
bad they are. This year is the
Yes.
exception to the rule that proves the rule because they're so bad this year that like you know exactly what's going to happen every week. But no,
Right.
in usually in my history of different football pools and those survivor pools and everything, the New York Giants are my nemesis.
Right.
Yeah.
So is that the only team you're adding?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's my list.
That's the list.
That's the
It's
list.
a good list. What else did you come prepared with? Some other things to talk about? I have two little things to talk about. Well, one of them is football, so we can segue right into football from your list.
Okay. Go ahead.
How did you like the Thursday night? Did you watch the Thursday night game?
I watched a bit of it. So I got home and there was like 3 minutes left in the first half. And I'm making dinner and I'm watching. And I actually had time to make dinner and I think even eat dinner. And the first half still wasn't over. It took forever to end the first half. I didn't watch any of the second half.
Okay, well, what everybody's talking about on all the news outlets and podcasts and everything is this new camera that they unveiled, this new camera angle.
Right. By the way, I'm glad you mentioned that. A, it's not new. They've used it 100
They
million
have, but not
times.
like for a whole game, right?
Right.
Or
And
as much
B,
as
the
they
reason
did.
they
Yeah.
the reason they used it is because a few weeks ago in a New England game on a Sunday night there was a bunch of fog and the only camera they were able to use in that game was the sky cam.
Right.
So the only camera that they were able to use during that New England fog game was the sky cam because it was the only camera that was able to go below the fog.
Right.
And so then someone said, oh, why don't we do this for an entire game? Because millennials who play video games, this is the angle that they get all the
No,
time.
when I was watching the game, I was like, this is right out of Madden. Now,
Yeah.
it's gotten like a lot of like weird opinions. Like when you go on Twitter, like people love it and people hate it, right? Now, I don't think I
Yes.
could watch a whole game like that. We're just so used to the other camera angles that they show. But I do like that camera angle I think for maybe instant replays or certain plays during the game. You really see what the quarterback sees, you know? And so, you know when you watch like a regular NFL game and like quarterback, 5-step drop, throw like that like out throw to the sideline and the guy catches it and they make it look so easy, right? It's like, oh yeah, 7-yard catch. Like it's like they could do it in their sleep. When you watch it on that Madden cam, as they're calling it, right? Like you see how hard it is, right? I mean, like that throw has to be perfect and that route has to be perfect and that catch has to be perfect. So it's like really shows like how difficult some of the easy plays And then the other thing is, like, you really see the holes that the running backs have to look at. You know, when they get a handoff, and I was watching, I'm like, why didn't you go right? Why are you going left? You know, like, you really see kind of like the whole, it's obviously not exactly what they see, but it's close to what they see. You know, you really have like a real, like, on the field picture of what's going on the line. Now, the big drawback is when they get like a 4-yard gain, you don't know if it's a 10-yard gain or a 2-yard gain. Like, you can't tell the distances, especially for the throws, too. It's very hard to tell the distances. And obviously, if they're throwing 50 yards down the field, that view is useless, you know?
That's why you have the play-by-play guys to tell you what the distance was. And as for those people who said they didn't like it, probably most of those people are old, and old people don't like change. And, you know, it's the same thing. I mean, can you think back to when you first started watching baseball? Baseball didn't even have instant replay review when you first started watching it. And then everyone thought, oh, you can't bring this in, it'll ruin the game. And now it's here to stay.
Well, I mean, look, when my son, when he's like 5 years old, he first started watching hockey. And, like, it was normal. So he's grown up his whole life with what you call, I don't know what the term is the bug or you know, like the little score in the top left-hand corner, or the score of the game in the top left-hand corner. So anytime you turn on the game, Montreal 2, Colorado is nothing, whatever the score is, right? You see it right there. It's like, you know, right away as soon as you turn it on. When we were kids, we had to wait for a stoppage in play for them to go to commercial, so you could like see the score on the screen. Otherwise, they didn't show it. Or I always felt like I had like good kind of intuition and a way of analyzing the way the announcers were talking, and just from some of the words they would say, or some of the intonation, or like you would pick up and you're like, oh, the Canadians are winning. Oh, the Canadians are losing. You'd have a clue. But, you know, now, like, if that little score widget goes off for any amount of time, it's like the kids now are like, oh my God, what's the score? We don't know the score. You know, it's like, it's a crisis.
Yeah, absolutely. So they always come up with different things and innovations. And when it's new, people complain about it, but then it stays for a year or two or whatever.
And they get used to it.
And then people are like, they become used to it.
Look, there's been some great innovations, especially in NFL. I mean, that yellow first down marker, that yellow line on the field, that's like revolutionized watching football. Honestly, it's like, you know exactly, you know more than they do, actually. You see that yellow line. The receiver sometimes catches the ball and you're like, why did he jump forward? You know, why didn't he just dive for the line? There's no line, you know? Like, he can't see the line.
The truth is, there's been so many innovations, especially in football on television, that it's definitely better to stay home and watch a football game on television than it is to physically go.
Yeah, football.
There's no question.
Football in person is definitely inferior than on TV. On TV, with you watch TV at your house with a 50, 60, whatever, however many inch TV you have, which everybody has now, and it's terrific.
And surround sound, you feel like you're there.
And, you know, I told you, like, I went to an Eagles game 2 years ago. It was my first NFL game, right? Believe it or not, and it's a little, like, weird because all of a sudden nothing's happening and the players walk to the sideline and that's it. And they just stand around and you're wondering what's going on. And it's because they're showing a commercial, right? But there's no actual timeout. It's the TV timeout. You know, it's really, they're just, and everyone's just standing around. They're not even talking strategy or anything. They're just standing around.
It's such a waste of time.
Yeah. All right, well, that was one of the things on my list. The other thing on my list is hockey related. I don't know if you want to segue to hockey or if you have more football talk.
I have nothing about football, but I do have hockey stuff, lots of hockey stuff.
Okay, well, there's something that really bothered me in hockey this week. Mm-hmm. It's not just this week, it's in general, and it came, you know, to light a little bit more this week because of Montreal and Toronto. So, like, as everybody knows, I'm in Montreal, you're in Toronto. When we talk about hockey, we tend to go Leafs, Habs, you know, focused. You know, with Carey Price being injured and Austin Matthews being injured, this business of the NHL, like, injury list, upper body, lower body, you know, it's like secret information, you know? It's like CIA, you know, like the Kennedy, who killed JFK, all the stuff that's being released, all the info about the JFK assassination has less security around it than the NHL injury list.
It's, yeah.
Carey Price, you know, Austin Matthews, he's got an upper body injury. What is it? What is his injury? No one knows. And it got so bad in Montreal this week because, you know, look, the Habs are a very secretive organization to start with, and I find they're trying less and less to be that way in the last year or so, because I think they realize when the team doesn't say anything, and they don't say anything at all for weeks, then the crazy media in our two cities starts to speculate. And then when they start to speculate, then everything starts to go crazy and people start to wonder what's going on. So actually, Carey Price actually had to meet the media himself this week to say, I had a little bit more of a setback and I'm still not back. So by the way, last episode, we both said that the Carey Price injury was fake. We agreed on that. I think I have to take it back because I do think there is something bothering him. I don't think if they wanted to give him the time off that he needed, he would have been back already. And he himself met the media and said he had a little bit of a setback and he's not quite ready to come back yet. So I do feel that there's something there, but if this was like Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final, he'd be playing.
Yeah, I'm not sure that that it is real still. I mean, yes, I saw that press conference that you referred to, and I mean, it does make it seem like there's more to it than we thought, but I don't know. I mean, keep in mind that when he came out and said that he needed more time and whatever, Charles Lindgren, or is it Charlie Lindgren, had been playing really well up until that point. And so there was no need to rush Price back. Like, Lindgren had his first bad game this week, and it wasn't even a bad game, actually. I think it was more the fault of the team than his. Now that there seems to be, Lindgren finally had a quote-unquote bad game, and there's some maybe pressure to bring Price back. Let's see what happens now. But yeah, you're right. He might actually be injured. If he's out for the whole season, like he was a couple of years ago, where we thought it was nothing major, and then next thing you know, he didn't play the rest of the year, then maybe it's legit. Yeah. Who knows?
But the thing, I want to just get back to the injury list. Like, they're so secretive, the NHL. I don't know why they just don't come out and say what's going on. People want to know, and all it does is cause speculation, and like someone made a good point. It's like, if you're saving up all your money, right, to go see the Leafs, and you want to go buy tickets, and you go on StubHub, and you're 16 years old, and you've saved up all your money to go see a Leafs game. You want to know if Austin Matthews is playing or not. You don't want to go there and then, oh yeah, he's injured. Like, it's so, like, the NHL is just doesn't know how to, like, engage the fans properly. Like, and it's not just the injuries. It's the whole way they do business. It's like they feel like they're smarter than everybody, but they're not. They're the number 4 league in North America for a reason. They should be taking chances. They should be doing things differently. They shouldn't be just trying to copy, like, how stupid the NFL is, for some things.
It starts with Gary Bettman. And okay, so you asked me yesterday if there's anything that's bugging me. At the time there wasn't, but then I saw this little 30-second clip of Gary Bettman was in Montreal yesterday to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the NHL, which, by the way, it seems like they've been celebrating the 100th anniversary of the NHL for the last 2 years, but that's another story. So apparently a reporter asked him about a meeting that he might have had with the owner of the Houston Rockets, who might be interested in having an expansion NHL team. And his answer was in typical Gary Bettman fashion. He didn't say anything at all. I think he's taken lessons from Bill Belichick on how to answer questions at a press conference. And so, yeah, so he's very secretive. He's very non-committal. And so all the owners and all the general managers are like carbon copies of Gary Bettman now.
Yeah. Like they don't want to tell you anything that's going on. Why don't you say, yes,
right.
I had a meeting with the owner of the Rockets. And the owner of the Rockets came out. He didn't say he had a meeting, but he said, we are working with the NHL to investigate whether a franchise is kind of viable. That he admitted there's been some communication, so why not just like say it? Why do you have to be evasive? Why do you have to be evasive? Why don't you just be open? Why don't you just provide information instead of conceal information? Like, that's just what bothers me about the NHL. Everything is like a big secret,
Yeah. And since you mentioned injuries and Canadians goaltenders, one of the things I was going to talk about, it's somewhat old news now, but you may recall that Al Montoya hasn't played a game since November 4th.
Well, he has an upper body injury, also known as a concussion.
Here's what I was going to say.
Right?
So he hasn't played since November 4th, and then on November 10th, Habs called up Zach Vucali, who I don't think he even played a minute.
No.
And the reason is because, apparently Montoya was injured.
Yeah.
However, between November 4th, when he played, and November 10th, when they called up Fucali, Montoya was the backup goalie for 3 games.
Right.
So that means to me, if you're the backup goalie, you're good enough to play,
Right.
because what happens if you have to play?
Right. Then all of a sudden they realized he had a concussion.
Right. So how come they only realized it on November 10th if it happened on November 4th?
Very shady. Very, very shady.
I don't get it.
No.
I don't get it.
Yeah, well, maybe the concussion symptoms only came later and he thought he could play. The thing with concussions is, I guess even the doctors don't really know enough about them. So, yeah, maybe it happened in practice. Like, I don't know. Just
Right.
seems
And
so
then-
weird. You're right. It seems really very weird.
And then switching gears slightly, not to do with injuries. So now the Canadians were at that point with Lindgren and Fucali, 2 completely different goaltenders than they started the season with, which if I told you that was going to happen, you would have laughed at me. And then they go and sign this guy off waivers, Antti Niemi, who actually has won a Stanley Cup, by the way.
I know.
If you recall.
He's a decent goalie.
I don't think he's played a minute yet for the Canadians, has he?
No, he hasn't, and I don't think he will. Well, maybe, I don't know. Yeah, no, they signed him. They signed him to be the backup for now, but it's clear that I don't know why they did that. I guess they feel like they need some depth in goal in the organization. They sent Fucali back down to the AHL.
Right.
So
right.
maybe they didn't have anyone to call up to the AHL to replace Fucali from wherever else they get goalies.
I don't know.
Like the ECHL.
But it's a goaltending carousel in Montreal.
It's a lot worse than that. I mean, like you said, I don't want to go too much on the Habs this week, but like that loss to Arizona sent the fans here into like a frenzy. Everyone's like ready to jump off the Jacques Cartier Bridge. And
well, all of a sudden they can score goals.
Yeah, but I mean, their group of defensemen, take Shea Weber aside, who's still good. You have Shea Weber, then you have Victor Mete, who's 19 years old, which they've made a complete mistake by keeping him on the team because he's playing like less than 10 minutes a night, and they even used him at forward the other night. So if you're going to play him less than 10 minutes a night and you're going to use him at forward, you should have sent him down to junior and let him play his season because they're going to ruin this guy,
Yeah, but they have nobody else.
But that's the problem, right? Like you need to be able to clear enough to say, if we have nobody else, maybe there's a bigger problem here than having to keep this guy. We're going to ruin this guy. So then they have a bunch of other stiffs: Jeff Petrie, Carl Alsner, Brandon Davidson, and Joe Morrow and Jordy Ben. That's 5 complete garbage defensemen. Like one is worse than the next, and like Alsner and Petrie are making $5 million a year. Ben, I don't know. Like all of these guys suck. Honestly, when you watch Jeff Petrie play, I can't stand when he's on the ice. I can't stand it. He's terrible. And the problem is, one of those 5 guys ends up playing with Weber. They don't know who. The failure of Bergevin as the GM, the biggest failure of Bergevin as the GM, is that he went out and acquired Weber. Very controversial, right? But you can't deny Weber's a great player. There's no denying it. It's been 2 seasons. They still haven't figured out who's going to play with him.
Well, the guy that played with him last year isn't on the team anymore.
I know, but even last year, Markov can't play 27 minutes a game. Like, and then they were trying to make him play those minutes last year, and it never made sense from the start, right? They tried to put Nathan Beaulieu there. Now they traded Beaulieu away. It didn't work out, and now like he's known this whole offseason who he has on his team, right? It's not a secret who he has. When you look down the roster back at the end of last season or on July 1st after they didn't sign Markov. Okay, who do we have to play with Shea Weber? No. Okay, we have no one.
Well, why does it have to be one guy? Why can't they have 2 different guys to play with him? Because there aren't many guys in the league who can play 27 minutes.
You're right. But they need someone. The problem is all the guys that he just named, they all suck. They all suck. If Jordy Ben, who was the 7th defenseman on Dallas, basically, is now your number 2 defenseman, you have a problem.
Petrie was good last year. I don't know how he's done this year, but he was good last year.
Petrie looks really lost. And I don't know if people are having... I know this sounds like excuses.
Oh, no excuses. No excuses.
I don't know if people are like... If they're as a team, they're having trouble adjusting to what Claude Julien is trying to do. But... someone made a good point. I heard it on the radio yesterday. And I'm glad they said it because no one's saying it. they look like a poorly coached team this season. This is the way this season started. They look like a team that's poorly coached. You know, like they go out there against Arizona and they look lost. You know, they look like they're just doing whatever. You know, like they had a power play. There's 2 shorthanded breakaways against them on the same power play. Okay. Well, maybe, I don't know. It doesn't matter. It's just like Lindgren stopped both of them, but it's like, how bad do you have to be? You know, it's just pathetic. Anyways, can we not talk about the Habs? I don't have anything more to talk about the Habs. Do you have stuff to?
No, I don't have anything more about the Habs.
Do you want to talk about the?
You just went off on a rant, and I didn't want to stop you.
What else do you have to talk about?
I want to talk about the Hockey Hall of Fame induction ceremony that happened a week ago here in Toronto.
Yeah, that nobody knows about.
Right. It's true. Nobody knows about it because I didn't even know it was happening till like the day before it happened.
100%. Another thing with the NHL. They have this thing. They have this Hall of Fame thing. Any other sport, they trot out the guys. It's on every network. It's on interview. There's all kinds of stuff. Here it's like you have to search somewhere to find out where it is and how to watch it. And you can't even watch it. It wasn't even on, was it?
I think it was on television, but the interesting thing was that actually the day before or 2 days before the ceremony, it was on a Monday. So I think on the Saturday, they had this thing where downtown where you could go and actually meet the players and talk to them and ask them questions, which I didn't even know this was happening. And it's like literally 15 minutes away from where I live.
Right.
And I would have maybe gone and you know, met Paul Kariya or met Teemu Selanne or taken my photo or, you know, shake their hand or something.
Why not?
Had I known about it, but I didn't even know it was happening.
Yeah.
So whatever. I don't know, you know, maybe I was, you know, asleep at the wheel or who knows what, but I didn't know that was happening. But that's not even what I wanted to mention. What I wanted to mention was I know that they announced the players who were going to be inducted months ago, but I forgot, you know, who those players were until it finally came to the day that they were inducting them. And so, you know, like I said, it was Selanne and Kariya and there was also a female hockey player who was inducted whose name escapes me. I think her name is Goyette.
Yeah.
And I think the final player that was inducted was Dave Andreychuk. And so I'm looking at these names and I'm like, Dave Andreychuk is a Hall of Famer?
Yeah.
Like I remember watching Dave Andreychuk when I was a kid. And this was all these players played in my heyday of following the league.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking, I don't know that I would put Dave Andreychuk in the same category as Selanne and Kariya and Recchi.
Well, I wouldn't either, but when you look at the total number of goals scored, he's like right up there, right? Like he's in the top 10 of all-time goals scored.
Well, possibly,
He is,
but then the next day I heard this other stat about Dave Andreychuk, and this actually solidified my opinion that he does not belong in the Hall of Fame. And the stat was Dave Andreychuk has the most career power play goals of all time. Right. And the way they said it was like,
it's a good thing.
Oh, Dave Andreychuk, he's done this, and he has the most career power play goals of anyone that's ever played. That is not a selling point.
No, so he has the most goals scored of anybody who ever played when his team had one more guy on the ice.
Exactly.
Right.
So if you take away a guy's power play goals and you just have their even strength goals, that's a better test of how good that player was, whether you're talking about one season or a career.
Yeah. No, I agree.
So,
I don't think he's. I mean, look, it's not for me to say or you to say who's a Hall of Famer and who's not. They have this.
Actually, it is. We can comment.
We can comment, but I mean, the whole induction process is a little bit crazy, and the Hockey Hall of Fame has very loose standards for getting in. I think it's easier to get into Hockey Hall of Fame than some of the others, and it is what it is. But like you said, he has a resume of goals scored, right? He's there. He's above like so many other players, but. Yeah, I agree. It's a little bit, it's a bit shaky there, no?
Yeah.
The thing with Dave Andreychuk is, he couldn't skate. How do you have a guy in the Hockey Hall of Fame who literally couldn't skate?
Well, because he was like Tim Kerr. He stayed in front of the net and got most of his goals.
All his goals were within 3 feet of the net, right?
I guess I don't remember. I don't remember one Dave Andreychuk goal. I really don't.
I'm gonna find a Dave Andreychuk. Well, they all must look the same, though. They're all like just rebounds or deflections.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
They're all in the power play. Apparently, that much we know.
Yeah.
The Skip and Josh podcast is back.
So one other thing I wanted to mention about the NHL. This also happened about a week or two ago. The Senators and Avalanche played 2 games in Sweden. So apparently this was a big deal.
Again, nobody knew about it.
I didn't know about it until it was happening.
I only found out about it that day.
Yeah. And what I don't understand is the NHL has done some odd things in its history, and I get that you want to grow the game, outside of North America.
Yeah.
I get that. The NBA does it and the NFL does it.
But why
and,
Sweden?
And actually Major League Baseball does
Why
it as
Sweden
well.
when they're already like hockey and they already know hockey?
Well, my question is not why Sweden. My question is, why are you doing this in the middle of the season? Normally that happens like the first game of the season so that the teams have time to come back to North America and get acclimated to the proper time zone that they actually live in. Here, you're making them go in the middle of the year. I mean, it's not technically the middle. It's still November, but I just found the timing of that whole thing very odd.
Well, to tell you the truth, there's not much difference between going to Sweden or going to Los Angeles. If you're an Ottawa Senator, it's the same thing. 6-hour flight. I know the time zones are a little bit different, whatever, but
You're right.
It's really not. I don't think the time zone thing is such a big deal, but it is a little bit odd because traditionally they've done these games at the beginning of the season, so you could already be out there for a few days. You know what I mean? And they make an event out of it with the team. But yeah, I mean, I tuned in that morning and on the radio I heard it's hockey night in Sweden. But it was in the morning, the game, right? So like for us, yeah. The thing is, I wonder, like, we're talking about all these things that we didn't know about. This game in Sweden, the Hockey Hall of Fame, all the events that are going on. Do you think it's because, like, I'm in Montreal and there's such intense focus on the Habs that the only hockey news that anybody cares about here is the Habs, and for you, the only hockey news that anybody cares about is the Leafs, and then everything else gets lost in the shuffle? It's like
that's part of it.
It's like
that's part of it. But the other part of it is that we're older, and we have other things to think about
true.
that are more important than who's playing in Sweden tonight.
It's like they've tried to make a junior hockey team work here in Montreal since I've been alive. Right? There's been different iterations of a junior team, and they could never get the junior team working here, and it's because there's like no one cares about anything except for the Canadians here. So it's like junior hockey is like whatever. Now maybe the Laval, they are trying to make a go of it, right? Because they made a junior team here now, which is in like, I don't want to get like, no one's gonna know where this is, but it's in like Boisbriand. So it's in it's outside of Montreal in like a suburb in a specific community. So I think they're trying to make that community, the team, to become that community's team, which may work. And then again, now the AHL team, we'll see. But I just think maybe it's like there's too much focus on the pro teams here that it's like other hockey stuff kind of gets lost. But then again, we watch the World Juniors. Everybody watches that,
Yes.
because they blitz us 24 hours a day on TV about it.
Well, yeah, TSN, that's a made-up event by TSN.
100% it is. But then why didn't
the rest of the world doesn't care about the World Juniors? Only Canada cares about the World
But
Juniors.
Sportsnet should have blitzed us all about all the Hockey Hall of Fame stuff. We should have saw a million things about the Hockey Hall of Fame festivities, and we didn't see anything.
Okay, well, I don't know. Was the Hall of Fame stuff on TSN or on Sportsnet?
Well, I'm saying Sportsnet because they're the partner of the NHL, right? So
yes, but this isn't really an NHL event. It's a Hockey Hall of Fame thing.
I guess that's the problem, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not considered part of, like, it's not like the draft or the or the trading frenzy or the free agent frenzy or
right,
whatever.
Because the Hall of Fame is its own organization. Thing. But I think there's the problem, right? They need to, like, people just didn't know about it, honestly.
This is the most important thing that I wanted to talk about. Which is that, and I'm sure you heard this happened about a week ago or 10 days ago, Duke got a new recruit for next season.
Yeah.
And his name is RJ Barrett.
Yeah.
And why I'm mentioning this is because he's Canadian.
Yeah, well, his dad played on the national team for many, many years. Rowan Barrett, like, look, now the next version of the Canadian Olympic team will be really good because now we've got some players, right?
Yeah.
But, like specifically Wiggins, right? Like there's a lot of good Canadian-born players playing in the NBA. But like going back 10 years ago, 20 years ago, it was slim pickings, right? And Rowan Barrett, who was, I don't think he was ever even in the NBA, but like he was always...
He played in St. John's.
Right, he was always always like on the Canadian national team. And it's crazy. His son is like the top prospect in all high school. It's nuts, right?
The reason I'm mentioning this, and the best thing about this, is that hopefully when he gets on the team next year, hopefully TSN will now show all the Duke games as they did with when Andrew Wiggins was on Kansas.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if they'll show all, but hopefully they'll at least show more, right?
Well, I haven't seen a Duke game yet this year.
Well, I was lucky because I was in California, so I got to see that Duke Michigan State game, which was great. So it was such a good introduction to like who's on the team this year, who are these new guys. It was really fun to watch. So yeah.
So this is what I'm just hoping that now we get to see the Duke games in Canada because there's a Canadian on the team. So this is why I wanted the guy to pick Duke.
Well,
and he did.
And he did. Maybe we'll get more TV games. I'm sure
that's not the reason why he picked them, but I'm glad he did.
Yeah.
And speaking of Duke, their team is completely different this year from what you told me that you saw on television and from what I heard from Jay Billis, who I regard as a very knowledgeable college basketball person.
It's totally different because
it used to be Duke was full of 3-point shooters and maybe one big guy, and now it's completely opposite. They're all big guys and they have one 3-point shooter.
There's one 3-point shooter. It's Grayson Allen. They have Gary Trent Jr. as the point guard. He's a 3-point threat, but he's not like a Luke Kennard where it's like automatic, you know. And then the other guys are all big, you know. They have two guys 6'10", like they're big, you know, and they're long, you know. They're all like it was so weird to watch the game. They played zone. They played a zone the whole game, and I was like, why are they doing this? I think it's because he felt like all the length of the players, you know, the long arms and everything, it was like going to work to their advantage, or maybe he just saw something against Michigan State, but like. In our lifetime, you know, every now and then Coach K will go to his zone, mostly to protect the guy who's in foul trouble or to exploit a specific matchup, but never like the whole game. You know, Duke's trademark is that like smash the floor, two hands smash the floor, man to man, get in your face. That's Coach K's style, right? So I was pretty shocked, but
I don't have to tell you that there's pros and cons to having a big lineup like this.
Of course, yeah.
It's nice to have, and it's good when it comes to rebounding and things like that. But then
we're so used to
if you need some 3-point shots late in the game, and there's only one guy to go to.
Well, we're so used to just like all the threes all the time. It's like it's become like our Duke style, right? It's like just launch threes. Everybody shoots threes.
Yeah.
4 guys at the perimeter, 1 guy standing in the middle.
Yeah,
that's not how it is at all. So hopefully, I don't know when the next time you'll get to see a Duke game, but maybe we could watch together.
That would be nice.
And you know, you'll get to see them in action.
Maybe we'll go to see a game live this year.
I know,
somewhere.
you sent me the schedule. I'll see what I can do. Before we sign off, remember you can listen and subscribe to new and archived episodes of the Skip and Josh podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, and Google Play, or any podcast app of your choice. And if you listen through Apple Podcasts, please leave us a review. I heard 5 stars is a good review.
I heard that too.
We would love to hear from you via email, skipandjoshshow@gmail.com, Twitter @skipandjosh, our Facebook page where you can also leave us a review, also 5 stars please, and skipandjosh.com, our website has all the links to everything, all the subscriptions and everything. And I'll post our top 10 hip songs, each of our top 10 hip songs. Maybe I'll post our texts. All right, talk to you later.
Bye.
The Skip and Josh podcast is over now. Don't worry, there'll be another episode soon.